Hello dear students, welcome to Genesis. Well, in this video I am mainly going to explain female reproductive system. Just like male reproductive system, the female reproductive system is divided into two parts. One is the primary organ. Why primary? Because this is involved in the production of the gamete. So the primary organ in female reproductive system is called ovary, also known as the gonad, right? And this ovary produces the gamete called ovum or egg. The other parts of the female reproductive system, though number one, fallopian tube, also known as oviduct, then uterus, vagina and vulva. Okay, now let us quickly understand how these different organs are organized within a female body. So the female reproductive system looks like this, okay, where there are two ovaries. These ovaries are not directly connected to the main body, but they are connected with the help of a ligament which is called ovarian ligament. Right at the tip of the ovary, the part called the fallopian tube starts, and this particular part of the fallopian tube that is directly in front of the ovary is known as the fimbriae or funnel of fallopian tube. This proceeds and forms the fallopian tube. The head or the tip of the fallopian tube is called fundus. Now as it goes down, it opens up into this pear-shaped structure which is known as the uterus. So here is the uterus, and this uterus has several linings of tissues in it, but the lining which is the innermost tissue, you must know the name of it. It is called endometrium. I'll tell you why, because later on when we study menstrual cycle, this layer will come into use. So the first part is here uterus, that is followed by the next part which is called the cervix, and this cervix opens into the structure called vagina. So the female reproductive system comprises of ovaries, then the fallopian tube, then uterus, cervix and vagina. Now let us discuss what exactly happens inside the ovary that leads to the formation of the ovum. Now I have drawn two diagrams here. One is the enlarged diagram of the ovary, and second is the female reproductive system. So we are going to see how this ovary actually works. Now the ovary has many potential egg forming cells, out of which every month in any one of the ovary alternatively one egg is formed. What I said, that there are many cells which can become egg, but any one matures every month, okay, alternatively. So that particular egg which is matured, it remains in a bag which is called follicle. So these follicles initially they are small in size, containing the egg, and that they are known as primary follicle. Now out of these many primary follicle, one would go a step further and would enlarge more in size, and now you are going to call it secondary ovarian follicle. Why am I using the word follicle? Follicle means a bag, and this bag contains the egg. So this is the egg and this is the follicle, and we can also see there is an empty space here. This empty space is actually filled up by a fluid. So as the follicle grows in size, it contains egg and a fluid inside it. The last stage of the follicle where it is absolutely grown up is called the Graffian follicle. So the Graffian follicle has the egg and the fluid. What is the fate of this Graffian follicle? This Graffian follicle then goes and merges with the wall of the ovary and bursts to release the egg. So now the Graffian follicle has no egg left in it because it has already released it out, and the dead body or the dead mass of the Graffian follicle is left behind in the ovary, and it is known as corpus luteum. So now you know that there are many follicles, out of which the one which can burst to release the egg is known as the Graffian follicle, and the remnant of this Graffian follicle is known as corpus luteum. Now let us understand what happens to this egg. So now we come to this diagram. Here we can very clearly see this is the ovary and it has released one egg. So this egg, imagine this is the egg released by the ovary, will be taken up by the fimbriae of the fallopian tube. The biggest problem with egg is it cannot move. Sperms can move, but egg is non-motile. It cannot move. So the egg from here is passed to this part with the help of cilia-like structures which are present inside the fallopian tube. So they help to move the egg from fimbriae to this part of the fallopian tube. And now the egg will wait here for the sperm to come and fuse. So when the sperms are released in the female vagina, the sperms, since they are motile, can easily move through the vagina, then the cervix, then the uterus, and finally reach the fallopian tube. So the fallopian tube is that part of the female reproductive system where actual fertilization means fusion of the male and the female gamete. That means fusion of the egg and the sperm is going to take place. So once it happens here, then the zygote, which is formed by the fusion of male and female gamete, will slip down and remain here in the uterus. It will remain attached to the wall of the uterus and will remain here for next 9 months until it is delivered out of the body. Now, one question that can come to our mind is, why will the baby develop for 9 months in the uterus, not in the fallopian tube, not in the vagina? Why in the uterus? There's a reason behind it. First and foremost, the baby would want to grow in a place which is richly supplied with blood vessel and is elastic. That means it has high elasticity. The shape of the uterus is pear shaped, so that itself gives more space. Second, it is muscular, so it has more elasticity. And third, it is richly supplied with blood vessels. So all of these conditions, they are very congenial for the growth of the baby or the zygote. And the lower part of the uterus itself is known as the cervix, but very clearly you can see it is narrow, and the part vagina, it is narrower. Why is this? So that we can prevent the developing baby from slipping out of the female body. At the time of childbirth, remember, during delivery we'll have to push through the muscles of the uterus, then the cervix and the vagina, and then only the baby can see a world outside the mother's body. Now let us talk about vagina. Vagina is that part of the female body which receives the penis during copulation, and this is the region where the sperm is actually released. Now this vagina has a membrane in it which is known as hymen. So at the time of copulation, this hymen is broken. Socially it is considered that if a female has not ever experienced copulation, then her hymen will remain intact, and if it is broken, that means she must have had copulation. But this is a very, very wrong concept. In fact, it's a myth. Many female during their childhood can also accidentally break the hymen, especially if they are doing cycling or they are into extreme athletics. Then there are high chances. So it has nothing to do with virginity of a woman. Now let us discuss the external genitalia of a female, which is also known as the vulva. Now this external genitalia is divided into few layers. The outermost layer is known as labia majora. It is a muscular layer. Inner to this is labia minora. These are equivalent to the scrotum in male. So please remember this, because this is often asked, that which part of the female reproductive system or which part of the female external genitalia is equivalent to the scrotum. So it is labia majora and labia minora. Now if you go inside, you are going to see at the tip there is a muscular structure which is known as clitoris. This muscle is just like male penis. It is equivalent to the penis. In fact, the muscle which is present in the penis of the male, the same muscle is also present in the clitoris. Then comes the part which is there are two openings in the female external genitalia. One is for receiving the sperm, which is known as the vaginal opening, and right on top of it is the urethra, which is for the release of urine. So I hope this is very clear to us. In case of male, there is only one organ for passing out urine as well as sperm, which is the penis. But in case of female, there are two separate openings. One is for receiving the sperm, which is called the vagina. Now let us quickly understand roles of two hormones that are produced by ovary in female reproductive system. See, in case of male reproductive system, I mentioned one hormone called testosterone, but in female, the organ ovary produces not one but two hormones. One is known as estrogen, which is produced by follicles. You remember primary follicle, secondary follicle, Graffian follicles. So these follicles release this hormone called estrogen, and this estrogen is responsible for all the secondary sexual characters in a female. Secondary sexual characters like enlargement of the breast, whitening of the hip area, growth of hair in the pubic region, all of these. The second hormone is called progesterone, which is produced by corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is the remnant of Graffian follicle after it releases the egg. This hormone is again very important because this prepares the uterus for receiving the embryo. So it actually makes the uterus soft and enriched with blood, with the hope that the embryo is going to come and stay in the uterus for 9 months. In case of male, the hormone is testosterone, and it is produced from the testis, and it also influences the secondary sexual characters of male. And what are those? Like hoarsening of the voice, development of beard and mustache, again development of hair in the pubic area, growth of the shoulder muscles. So all of these help in distinguishing a man from a woman externally. Now, when a baby girl is born, the baby girl is born with a pair of ovaries, and these ovaries have many follicles in them. The only point here is these follicles are immature. As she grows and reaches the age of 11, 12 or 13 years, one of the follicle grows enough to become a Graffian follicle and release the egg. This step of releasing egg by the Graffian follicle is known as ovulation. And once this ovulation happens, then she undergoes certain changes in the structure of the uterus. All of these together form a cycle which is known as the menstrual cycle. So now we are going to understand the menstrual cycle in the female body. So let us discuss menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle is a very important part in a female's life, okay, because this gives her the power to conceive. The menstrual cycle, it usually starts at the age of 13 years and continues till 45 to 50 years. So during this entire long span, every month the female is going to experience the cycle and will undergo certain changes in her body. So the onset, that means the first time when she experiences menstruation, that is known as menarche. That can be anywhere at the age of 10 to 13 years. And the last time when she undergoes this cycle, that is called menopause, which again can happen any time between 45 to 50 years. Now let us understand what is happening during the menstrual cycle. Well, the menstrual cycle is divided into 4 phases, and it is a cycle of 28 days. That means that entire month in a female body, she is actually in the cycle and she is in some or the other phase of the cycle. So the 4 phases are, number 1 is called the menstrual phase, which is when which happens for 3 to 5 days. Then is the follicular phase, which is from 5th to the 12th day. Then is the ovulatory phase, which is from 13th or the 14th day of the cycle. So that means if it is a cycle of 28 days, right in the middle of those 28 days, on the 13th or the 14th day, she is experiencing the ovulatory phase. And the last one is the luteal phase, which is known as which is from the 15th to the 28th day. Now, what is happening in this cycle of 28 days? So, the first thing that happens is the egg is released with the hope that sperm will come and fertilize. But agar copulation hua hi nahi hai, there will be no fertilization, so there will be no zygote. So now the female body does what? It flushes out the unfertilized egg along with the inner lining of the uterus, जिसे endometrium कहा जाता है, with blood and mucus. Together, this is known as menstrual flow, and this blood flow happens for 3 to 5 days in the female body. So imagine किसी महीने के first को the female starts to shed the blood and the mucus and the unfertilized egg, and it will continue till 5th day. Now what will happen? The next stage is the ovary will prepare any second follicle to grow into a Graffian follicle, because it should not stop, right? It did not happen that month, but may happen next month. There can be fertilization next month. So that is known as the follicular phase. This follicular phase will continue from the 5th to the 12th day of the month. इसमें होगा क्या? The primary follicle will develop into secondary and then tertiary and then Graffian follicle. And as we know, these follicles produce the hormone estrogen. So the level of estrogen is going to be very high during the follicular phase. इसका एक impact भी होगा on the uterus. This will help the uterus to become more spongy and more vascular, richly supplied with blood, because the body is hoping that there will be copulation, there will be fertilization, and the zygote is soon going to come and get implanted in the uterus. Now, on the 14th day or the 13th day of the month, the female is going to release the egg from the Graffian follicle, और उसे कहा जाता है ovulation. Remember one thing, for this ovulation to happen, we need 2 more hormones. One is called follicle stimulating hormone, another luteinizing hormone, which are produced from the pituitary. So these hormones help in bursting the Graffian follicle and releasing the egg in the fallopian tube. Now in the fallopian tube, the egg is waiting for the sperm to come. If it comes very well, the zygote will be formed, and the zygote will go and get implanted, मतलब चिपक जाना, will get implanted to the wall of the uterus. So the site of implantation in a female body is uterus, but the site of fertilization of sperm and ovum in the female body is the fallopian tube. अगर ये होता है, now the uterus will remain as it is and the child will grow in the uterus for next coming 9 months. But if it is not happening, then what happens? In that case comes the next phase, which is known as the luteal phase. इस phase में क्या होता है? After ovulation, the Graffian follicle has burst and it has become corpus luteum. And the corpus luteum is now releasing progesterone. Progesterone again is required for keeping the uterus intact. But corpus luteum only produces progesterone for some days. So by the time it reaches the 28th day of the menstrual cycle, it understands that there is no zygote that has formed. So it stops producing progesterone. और जब ये प्रोजेस्टेरोन का प्रोडक्शन बंद हो जाता है, then what happens? Again the menstrual phase starts. The uterus sheds its endometrium along with the unfertilized egg, mucus and blood. And this cycle continues every month in the female body for almost 30 to 35 years. So this is the phase when she is reproductive, because she is producing egg every month with the hope of getting fertilized and producing a zygote. So with this we finish female reproductive system. In my next class I am going to start fertilization. So if you have any doubt, post it in the comment box. Keep revising and subscribe my channel. Thank you.